Warning: the following fanfic reading is for mature audiences only. It contains mature subjects such as grief, death of loved ones, discrimination, alcoholism, and gore. Viewers' discretion is advised. The Legend of Spike, Discord's Mask, written by DiabloGuapo. Chapter 12, Depression Cycle, Day 2. Dawn of the second day, 48 hours remaining. In the depths of the Diamond Dog's cave, there was a cell. Inside the cell sat a dragon, assuming the form of a member of the famed team of Pegasi stunt flyers, the Wonderbolts. The dragon had been captured while he was attempting to rescue a full-napped filly. They had taken his belongings and tied him up. All through the night, the dragon in a Pegasus body struggled against his restraints. He couldn't afford to be held as the Diamond Dog's prisoner, for too much was at stake. There was a little pony that needed saving, a princess depending on him, and a moon that would fall to the world in 2 days. If he couldn't get free from his restraints, then every living thing in Trotana would die. Spike took a break from his struggling and leaned up against the wall of his cell. He sighed in frustration as he hung his head. Was this it? Was he going to die here? His avaricious captors would doom this world just to have the pieces of jewelry that were the elements of harmony. They didn't know how important they were. To them, they were just fine pieces of jewelry to collect and hoard. Diamond Dogs were perhaps the second greediest creatures known to ponykind. Ironically enough, a member of the greediest race was now their prisoner, and he wasn't even greedy at all.
Hey, I don't mean to freak you guys out or anything, but, I'm trying to save the world here. I kind of need these gems to do that, because if I don't save the world, then you guys are going to be dead, and you won't have any treasure to collect. I mean, I'm just saying, you could, not take these and keep stealing stuff, or you could take these and it would be the last thing you ever did. I mean, it seems like a pretty easy solution to me.
During the night, Spike tried to reason with the guard dogs as they passed by his cell during their patrol routes. Unfortunately for Spike, they were both too greedy and too stupid to understand the ramifications of their actions. They only wanted their beloved treasure. As Spike contemplated his position, he spoke to his cohorts.
Any bright ideas?
Maybe you should pretend to be sick.
Nah, they wouldn't care.
Maybe I could start whining. The rarity in my world was able to whine them into submission when they captured her.
I don't think that's such a good idea. What if they gag you?
How about you try to cut the ropes by rubbing up against the wall?
I don't know. That might take too long, and they might notice him if he isn't careful. Besides, what would he do next? He'll just be a Pegasus locked in a cage instead of a tied-up Pegasus locked in a cage.
Wait a minute.
The answer to his predicament suddenly came to him.
I got it!
Got what?
To answer the Pegasus question, Spike pulled away from the power of the Pegasus mask. As he did, his body began to shift back into that of a young dragon. The bones in his wings cracked and compressed as they retracted into his back. Fur was replaced by scales once more. His mane receded and spines started to grow down the length of the body, from his head to the tip of his tail. The ropes that were wrapped around him became loose as his body decreased in size. He was now standing in the center of the cell with a rope lying on the ground, circling his feet.
Spike, you're a genius!
If I'm such a genius, then why didn't I think of this sooner?
The answer to his question was sleep deprivation. Spike had not slept since before he arrived in Trotana. Accounting for the number of times he had repeated the same 3-day cycle, Spike had been awake for 10 days straight and was now beginning the 11th. The only thing that was keeping him going was the blue magic potion that Sakura had given to him 6 days ago.
Okay, you're a dragon. Now what? What's your plan, Spike?
I can dig my way out of here. We then find our stuff, grab Scootaloo, and get out of here.
What about the guards? They'll be looking for you as soon as they know you've escaped.
Spike thought about this and looked around the cell. There were some large rocks, a dirty sheet, and an old pillow with feathers falling out of it. The dragon smirked as he came up with a plan. A diamond dog guard walked down the tunnel where Spike's cell was located. The guard peered into the cell and panicked when he saw that the prisoner was gone. The guard pulled out the key to the cell and opened the door. He ran inside, looking all around the cell for a possible escape route that the prisoner could have used to get out. As the bipedal dog looked around the cell, a large rock fell from the ceiling and struck the dog on top of his helmet. The impact caused the dog's head to rattle. Stars dazzled around the dog's head as he stuck his tongue out and his eyes rolled dizzily around in their sockets. The guard fell unconscious to the floor, and Spike dropped down from the ceiling. He took the keyring, shoulder pads, and helmet from the knocked-out dog and tied him up with a rope that was previously used to restrain Spike. He covered the unconscious dog with a filthy sheet and stuck some of the feathers from the pillow under the sheet so that it appeared that they were wings sticking out from under it.
Are you sure this will work?
Trust me,
Spike reassured as he put on the shoulder pads and helmet.
they'll never notice. They're half-wits.
After gagging the dog, Spike exited the cell and locked it with a key. Spike headed down the tunnel in search of his missing items. He paused when 2 more diamond dogs were marching down the tunnel, headed towards the dragon that was wearing the oversized shoulder pads and helmet. Spike stood aside to let the dogs pass, but they stopped to stare at the poorly disguised dragon. One dog cocked a brow, and the other scratched his head. Spike started to sweat as he tried to smile innocently at the guards.
Spike, this isn't going to work.
Nope.
I hope your plan works.
Trust me, it will work.
Spike said to reassure his partners and himself. After a moment of staring at the nervously smiling Spike, the diamond dog shrugged and moved on. All 4 of the adventurers let out a sigh of relief. Well, at least Spike did. The others had to do it metaphorically due to the fact that they were only spirits. Armed with the knowledge that the diamond dog wouldn't see through his disguise, Spike continued down the tunnel. As the dragon made his way down the passageway, his vision started to become blurry. Spike reached out with a shaking claw and braced himself against the tunnel's wall. His knees knocked together as he struggled to keep himself upright.
Spike, are you okay?
I'm getting dizzy.
He strained his eyes, but his sight remained blurry.
Spike, what's wrong?
Soren tried to ask the dragon, but his voice sounded like it was moving away from him.
Spike, can you hear me?
Spike, can you
Spike?
hear me? Can you hear us?
Spike, are you
You hear
alright?
us?
Spike, please!
Talk to us. Spike.
The masked spirits' voices seemed to echo as though they were far away. Spike's body began to sway. He could now only faintly hear his companions' voices, but there was also something else. In his mind, he could see something. It was round and was very large. It appeared to be drawing closer and closer to him. He could see the image of an alicorn's silhouette imprinted on the massive object. The alicorn's eyes suddenly glowed yellow and red, and then the object consumed the dragon.
You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?
Spike gasped and found himself still standing in the tunnel, braced up against the wall. His partners were still calling to him. He shook his head and continued down the tunnel.
What happened?
I need the potion.
Even though the vision had startled him back to his senses and gave him a jolt of energy, it was quickly fading. He didn't know how much longer he had until he collapsed. He entered a storage room filled with piles of loot. The large gray diamond dog that had captured him yesterday was snoozing in the corner. He was lying on the floor, and his back leg would kick every once in a while as he dreamed. Under the dog's large paw was Spike's chain that held the watch, the lens of truth, and his flute. Spike thought of what he would do next to get the chain out from under the dog's paw without waking him. Spike knew he couldn't wake the large dog and ask for it. Even though the dog would believe that the dragon was a diamond dog, he was one of the betas and wouldn't hand over his prize unless it was the alpha. Spike noticed that there was a feather still stuck onto his scales from the pillow. He used the feather to tickle the dog's nose. As he had hoped, the dog raised his paw to rub his nose and place it down. However, the chain with its contents wasn't there anymore. Spike swiped it and replaced it with a bone. With the chain once again around his neck, Spike searched the rest of the storage room. He saw his flask hanging from a hook on the wall. Worried, Spike grabbed the flask and opened it. To his relief, the flask still contained the blue potion. Spike took a gulp and felt his vitality return. With renewed strength, the dragon continued his search. He entered an adjacent storeroom and saw the smaller brown beta dog also asleep by a pile of treasure. The dog was snoring softly, and Spike silently crept in. He found the elements of honesty, kindness, and generosity lying amongst a pile of gems. Spike carefully lifted the element of honesty from the pile, glancing over to the sleeping dog as he did to make sure he was still asleep. After clasping it around his neck, Spike grabbed the element of kindness and clasped it onto his right arm. When he picked up the element of generosity, the gems under it shifted. A few gems fell to the stone floor, making a slight tingling sound. Spike froze, and his eyes started back to the sleeping dog. The brown dog snorted loudly, but then went back to snoring. Exhaling in relief, Spike placed the third element on his left arm. Now, all that remained was Scootaloo. Spike exited the storerooms and sneaked down the passageway. He had to be extra careful, for his disguise wouldn't matter now if he was seen. The dogs would be suspicious if they saw him with their ill-gotten goods. Spike then heard howling echoing down the tunnel, and the sound of dogs running. The alarm had been sounded. Spike used his claws to climb up the wall and dig a hole in the ceiling. He looked down from his hiding place and saw a group of guards run underneath him. He noticed one lacked armor and was covered in feathers. The dragon continued to dig, following the direction the dogs had gone. He broke through a wall and saw the alpha dog wearing the red vest standing in front of a tied-up Scootaloo.
Boss, the pony escaped.
He hit me on the head and took my armor! The Phantom!
The guards ran out as the betas entered.
Someone took my flute!
And someone took the new gems!
For crying out loud! Can't your character anything right? Okay, listen here, you two. If you two had been sleeping on the job, this wouldn't have happened. So, get your shit together.
As Spike watched the leader berate his hench dogs, a bee buzzed in front of the dragon's face. Spike shooed the bee away, and it flew up to a hive that was hanging from the ceiling on the cavern. Spike looked back down at the canine trio. The lead dog dragged the orange filly to a nearby cell and locked her in it. He then returned to the center of the room and started to give the other two instructions. Spike noticed that the beehive was now hanging right above the three dogs, and Spike grinned mischievously. He shot a jet of green flames at the thin part of the beehive that connected it to the ceiling, and it burnt away. The hive landed in the center of the three dogs, and a swarm of angry bees flew out of it. The dogs yelped in alarm and ran down the tunnel with the swarm in hot pursuit. Spike transformed into Soren and flew down to Scootaloo's cage. As he unlocked the cage, he could hear the dogs howling in pain from the bee stings as they ran away. The filly exclaimed as she saw the Pegasus enter the cell. After he untied her, she threw her forelegs around his neck and hugged her rescuer.
That was totally rad!
Thanks, but we gotta hurry.
Spike urgently told her as he placed her on his back.
Hold on.
She clasped on as hard as she could as he blazed down the tunnels towards the exit. He zigzagged left and right as he navigated through the labyrinth. The diamond dogs he passed could watch in surprise and confusion as a blue streak zoomed by them. As he neared the exit, they saw the trio of dogs that the bees had chased recovering from their bee stings.
What?
They asked as they heard Spike approaching from behind. As the leader turned around, his jaw was met with Spike's hoof as the Pegasus uppercut the red-vested dog. While they were caught off guard, Spike bucked the bigger one in the stomach, braining him to his knees, and then jumped on top of the smaller one. Spike's rear hooves knocked the small dog face first into the dirt as the Pegasus used him as a springboard. Spike shot out of the cave with a cheering filly on his back.
Woohoo!
Shouted Scootaloo as they flew away from the caves.
Take that, you smelly mutts!
Spike couldn't help but to laugh as he shared in with the orange filly's enthusiasm. Spike soared over the bay as they headed to the floating city made of clouds. Using Soren's directions, Spike headed to the Wonderbolt's camp. He could see the aerial team practicing for their show over the training field. He watched them as they performed various tricks and flew in different formations. However, he was looking for one in particular. He spotted her sitting on the bleachers. Spike was happy to see that this Rainbow Dash had achieved her dream of becoming a Wonderbolt. But it was hard to see her like this. She had always bragged that she feared nothing and carried herself with confidence and attitude. But the truth was that she was terrified of the thought of failure. When she saw the Diamond Dogs drag her adopted sister underground, her spirit broke and her confidence was shattered. She now watched on with a hollow look as her teammates prepared for the Summer Sun celebration.
Rainbow Dash!
The filly called out to the mare with a multicolored mane as she ran to her.
Scootaloo?
Rainbow Dash gasped when she saw Scootaloo running up to her. She couldn't believe her eyes. Well, almost. The filly jumped into the mare's outstretched forelegs, and Rainbow Dash took to the sky, spinning around in the air with the filly locked in a hug.
Scootaloo!
Any other day, the blue mare was adamant to maintain an image of awesomeness and never allowed any pony to see her get emotional, for she believed that she had a reputation of toughness to keep. Today, her reputation could go straight to Tartarus for all she cared. Spike watched as he saw the blue Pegasus do something he never thought that she would ever do in a million years. Rainbow Dash sobbed like a little foal. In fact, she and Scootaloo were both crying heavily with tears of happiness and of love for each other. The other Wonderbolts took notice and flew over to see what the commotion was all about. The team of stunt ponies smiled, and some of them started to tear up a bit as they watched the happy scene. Spitfire, the fiery-maned captain, flew over to Spike.
Great job, Soren.
The yellow mare congratulated Spike, bumping his side with her elbow.
I knew you'd pull through for RD.
Thanks.
Spike responded, not taking his eyes off of Rainbow Dash and Scootaloo. He felt happy for them, and wished that his world's version of Rainbow Dash would one day take in Scootaloo as her adopted sister. The reunited pair landed back down on the bleachers.
Come on, let's go home.
She brushed the filly's mane that was covered in dirt from the caves.
I'll get you cleaned up.
Rainbow Dash picked up Scootaloo and took off towards their home as Spike smiled at them as they flew away. Ponyville, Day 3, 2:00 a.m. Twilight Sparkle had finally fallen asleep after another fruitless day of searching for her missing number 1 assistant. As she dreamed, she saw a scene from a long time ago that she would never forget. A purple egg sitting on a wooden cart, an explosion, a powerful surge of magic, a cooing baby dragon, an opportunity that would shape her future, a cutie mark. After the excited lavender unicorn filly had finally calmed down, she looked over to the baby dragon, which was currently sucking on his tail. She saw the unicorns that had administered the entrance exam walked over to the newly hatched infant with contemplative looks on their faces.
What shall we do with it?
I'm not sure. I never thought it could be done.
Twilight was confused by what they had said and continued to listen with curiosity.
The exam was just an aptitude test. Nobody was supposed to be able to pass it, let alone a fall. Should we keep it? It would be fascinating to study a dragon. Think of it, the first dragon to be studied in captivity.
Captivity?
Somehow, that sounded wrong to her.
I don't know. Dragons are very dangerous. Maybe we should just dissect it.
Dissect it? How could they? It's just a baby!
It's probably for the best we just go ahead and kill it.
Twilight Sparkle wailed as she ran over to the baby dragon and threw her forelegs around as if to shield it from the administrators.
You can't kill him! I won't let you!
The adult ponies were shocked by the filly's sudden outburst.
Miss Sparkle, it's Warzone.
Twilight cried as she hugged the baby dragon, tears streaming down her face. The infant looked up at the ponies looming over it and felt frightened. Instinctively, it clung to the lavender filly that was protecting it for safety.
Miss Sparkle, please.
Twilight Sparkle.
Twilight looked up and saw the majestic Princess Celestia towering over her through tear-filled eyes. The white alicorn softly smiled and knelt down in front of her. She smiled at the baby dragon that was clinging to Twilight. The dragon, sensing no danger coming from the smiling alicorn before it, cooed at the princess. The princess laughed at the adorable dragon and then looked at Twilight.
I believe your first lesson will be in responsibility. Your first assignment as my personal student will be to name your baby dragon.
My baby dragon?
The regal alicorn nodded.
Yes, you are to care for him, feed him, wash him, teach him, and to raise him. Do not worry, I will help you.
Twilight looked down at the dragon in her forelegs, which yawned as it curled up against her and fell asleep. She smiled.
Spike. I'll call him Spike.
A soothing melody played as everything around the unicorn filly holding the sleeping baby dragon faded away, leaving the image of the two by itself. Twilight smiled in her sleep as she continued to watch the image in her dreams. She wanted to watch that image of her holding the baby Spike from that day forever. She had always remembered that day as the day that she began her life as Princess Celestia's faithful student. On top of that, she had earned her cutie mark. She would later discover that it was because of Rainbow Dash that this was all possible, and that she and her friends had been connected even before they discovered the elements of harmony. Now, she had a new reason to look fondly back at that day. It was the day she had become a mother. Even while she was asleep, Twilight began to long for her baby dragon. Why couldn't she have seen it sooner? The way she used to wipe its mouth after she would spoon-feed him. The way she would laugh as he would splash soapy water at her while she would give him baths. The way he used to crawl into her bed late at night when he would have nightmares. Her determination to find Spike had suddenly increased now that she realized that he was more than just her number one assistant. He was her son. Then something happened. The image of the young Twilight and the baby Spike faded away. The soothing music that she heard became distorted. She watched with increasing fear as new images appeared in her dreams.
You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?
Spike yelled in pain as his body twisted and changed. A sad-looking tree, a grinning pony wearing a foreign cap, the tomb of a fallen hero, a grave on the beach, a moon with a mark of the mare of the moon, a mask with glowing, mismatched eyes.
You shouldn't have done that.
Twilight Sparkle woke with a start, drenched in a cold sweat. She pulled the covers of her bed up to her face like a scared foal and peeked over them as she looked around her dark bedroom.
Yeah. Next one is yelp and alarm, and followed by howl in pain from being stung by bees. Ooh, that's horrible. Stung by a swarm of bees.
Okay, plane, seriously, can you take off?
Sorry. I ran out of air. Fuck! I'm okay. I'm okay. Alright. Bop. 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 Oh, ow, 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 ow. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't punch myself in the chest. Boss! The pony escaped. That wasn't supposed to happen. Fuck. Okay. Okay. Alright, damn it. I did it. I did. Fuck. There we go.
Wait, am I in a wrong chapter?
What? I thought I was recording chapter 11. Oh. Okay. Chapter 12. Well, I'm an idiot, ladies and gentlemen, believing that I was recording chapter 11. So ridiculous. Oh, goddamn, that took a toll on my throat.
Not my flute! Why my flute? Why? You doggots! Why? What? Not the bees! That's bonkers! What? What?
That sound like a seal. I forgot my cat. Oh, I forgot my cat was under my bed. I'm so sorry.